Aaron Carter's life was a glittering promise that turned into a chilling cautionary tale. At just 9 years old, he was hailed as the prince of teen pop, selling millions of records and igniting arenas with a smile that seemed untouchable. Yet behind the cameras and screaming fans was a boy trapped in an industry that devoured him too quickly. Fame became his prison, family turned into conflict, and his voice of innocence was slowly drowned by scandal, addiction, and despair. The world watched him grow up under relentless spotlights, but few understood the depth of his suffering. In November 2022, the headlines confirmed the tragedy. Aaron was gone at 34, leaving behind more questions than answers. His story is not just about a fall from grace, but about the hidden cracks in the glittering facade of stardom that no one wanted to see. At the turn of the millennium, pop culture was saturated with icons who defined an entire generation's soundtrack. Among them stood Aaron Carter, a boy barely into his teenage years who became the unexpected phenomenon of the early 2000s. His blonde hair, youthful charm, and catchy songs like I Want Candy and Aaron's Party Come Get It turned him into a household name across the United States and beyond. For many children growing up during this era, Aaron represented the dream that anyone so young could touch fame and live the life of a superstar. He was not just a singer, but a cultural product, a symbol of the bubblegum pop era that capitalized on innocence and fun. Aaron's rise was not coincidental. He was the younger brother of Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys, the best-selling boy band in the world at the time. The Carter name carried weight, and record labels were eager to replicate the formula of teen success. Aaron's management team rushed him into recording studios and promotional tours, crafting him as the perfect teen idol. By the time he was 10 years old, Aaron was performing in front of tens of thousands of fans, appearing on television specials, and sharing stages with his brother's legendary group. His career became a family affair. Yet this connection also sowed the seeds of later turmoil. The entertainment landscape of the early 2000s thrived on media spectacle. Tabloid culture was booming, reality television was beginning to shape public perception, and the internet was starting to provide unprecedented access to celebrities' private lives. Aaron's youth and vulnerability placed him at the center of this circus. Every step he took was magnified, every misstep sensationalized. While his peers were navigating adolescence, Aaron was trapped in hotel rooms, rehearsals, interviews, and recording sessions. The industry built him up as an unstoppable teen sensation, but it also deprived him of the ordinary milestones of growing up. Behind the polished magazine covers, his family dynamics were far from stable. Reports of financial mismanagement began surfacing, and legal disputes over money hinted at the cracks within the Carter household. Aaron himself spoke in later years about feeling exploited and misunderstood, claiming that those closest to him saw more value in his fame than in his well-being. This sense of betrayal would become one of the defining struggles of his life, fueling his resentment and his spiral into destructive behavior. The early 2000s pop scene, colorful and innocent on the surface, was in fact a machine that consumed youth at an alarming speed. Aaron Carter was a child placed at the center of a cultural moment, celebrated by millions, yet left dangerously exposed. The foundations of his eventual downfall were already being laid in these formative years, hidden beneath the glitter and applause. The stage was set for a story that would later turn from triumph to tragedy.
Aaron Carter's story began like a fairy tale, but the progression quickly turned into a cautionary narrative of fame's darkest edges. At the height of his career, Aaron was performing on global tours, sharing the stage with Britney Spears, and opening for the Backstreet Boys. His albums sold in the millions, and his face was plastered across teen magazines, posters, and merchandise. For a brief moment, Aaron was not just a young star, but an empire built on youth culture. Yet with such rapid ascent came pressures he could neither escape nor understand. The first cracks appeared as Aaron transitioned from child star to young adult. The music industry thrives on novelty, and teen idols are often treated as disposable once their image no longer fits the mold. By his mid-teens, Aaron struggled to maintain the same level of attentions. His once adoring fanbase aged out of bubblegum pop, while newer acts captured the spotlight. To an industry that had squeezed every ounce of profit from him, Aaron became less marketable, and the decline in record sales reflected this brutal reality. Personal life added fuel to the fire. The Carter family, once seen as the supportive backdrop to both Aaron and Nick's careers, became a public battlefield. Allegations of financial exploitation surfaced, with Aaron accusing his parents of mismanaging his fortune and leaving him broke despite years of success. These disputes escalated into legal battles and estrangement, making Aaron's private struggles as sensational as his music once was. Instead of being shielded from controversy, he became its protagonist. As his career faltered, Aaron's name appeared less in music reviews and more in tabloid headlines. Reports of drug use, erratic behavior, and troubled relationships overshadowed any attempt to rebuild his artistry. Television appearances meant to spark comebacks often spiraled into spectacles of instability. The young boy who once embodied innocence was now portrayed as a fallen idol, unable to reclaim his place in the spotlight. Scandal became synonymous with his name. Multiple arrests related to driving offenses and possession of controlled substances painted a grim picture of a life unraveling. Interviews revealed his battles with anxiety, depression, and substance abuse, each confession offering a glimpse into a man grappling with demons rooted in both childhood fame and personal trauma. Yet each revelation also fed the media frenzy, transforming Aaron's pain into public entertainment. The narrative of Aaron Carter's life was no longer about chart-topping hits, but about a tragic fall from grace. His early glory only amplified the contrast of his struggles, making his decline appear even more dramatic. What had started as a dream career was now a relentless cycle of scandals, apologies, and failed attempts at redemption. The boy who once brought joy to millions was left fighting for stability, overshadowed by the very fame that once defined him.
Behind the flashing lights and the screaming fans, Aaron Carter's life carried wounds that never healed. The public saw his erratic behavior as tabloid fodder, but beneath it was a deep struggle with mental illness, isolation, and the crushing weight of expectations placed on him before he was even old enough to understand them. In interviews, he admitted to battling schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and crippling anxiety. He often described how the industry chewed him up and left him to survive on his own, without guidance or protection. These confessions were not just headlines, they were cries for help that often went unheard. Family conflict sharpened the blade of his downfall. Aaron's relationship with his brother Nick Carter turned into one of the most tragic public feuds in pop culture. At various times, Aaron accused Nick of abuse, while Nick and other family members filed restraining orders against him. The once celebrated Carter family became a battlefield of accusations and legal filings, each new conflict fueling the media's appetite. Instead of being remembered as the golden brothers of pop, they became defined by division and hostility. This fractured family dynamic only deepened Aaron's sense of betrayal and abandonment. Financial ruin added another layer of tragedy. Despite earning millions in his early career, Aaron later admitted that he was left with almost nothing, claiming mismanagement and exploitation by those who were supposed to protect him. The boy who once headlined tours now struggled to pay bills, leading him to reality television and smaller gigs in desperate attempts to rebuild. These appearances often drew ridicule rather than sympathy, painting him as a cautionary tale instead of a survivor. The darkest truth, however, was his long and public battle with addiction. Aaron cycled through rehabilitation attempts, often claiming sobriety, only to relapse in full view of the world. His appearance grew gaunt, his speech slurred in interviews, and his live streams revealed an individual spiraling out of control in real time. Each relapse was documented, mocked, and dissected by the public, erasing the boundary between entertainment and suffering. For Aaron, privacy was impossible, and the stage for his collapse was global. The final chapter came on November 5, 2022, when Aaron was found unresponsive in his bathtub. The official cause pointed to accidental drowning under the influence of drugs, but the story was more complex than a single night. It was the culmination of years of unresolved trauma, exploitation, and neglect. Fans mourned, celebrities posted tributes, and the media once again feasted on his demise. Yet the outpouring of grief also carried a haunting echo. Aaron had been calling for help all along, and almost no one had listened. His story is a mirror held up to the entertainment industry's darkest truths. Child stars are celebrated until they are no longer profitable, then left to battle demons on their own. Aaron Carter's life was not simply a fall from grace, but a revelation of how fame can destroy as much as it creates. At Hidden Fame, we believe Aaron Carter's story is not only a personal tragedy, but also a reflection of the flaws within the entertainment industry.
He was a child placed on a pedestal before he had the chance to grow, celebrated by millions, yet deprived of the protection every child deserves. His downfall cannot be seen solely as the result of poor choices or reckless behavior, but as the outcome of systemic failures that prioritized profit over human well-being. Aaron's achievements as a young star are undeniable. He sold millions of records, influenced pop culture, and became a voice of a generation who grew up with his songs. His music remains a nostalgic memory for many, reminding us of the innocent energy of the early 2000s. But his legacy is shadowed by the turmoil he endured: broken family ties, financial exploitation, and the painful exposure of his mental health struggles. Instead of celebrating his resilience, society often reduced him to a spectacle, feeding on his missteps as though they were part of the show. The responsibility does not rest solely on Aaron or his family. The industry itself is built to elevate young talents quickly, then discard them when the shine fades. Aaron's story should challenge us to ask whether fame at such an early age is ever truly sustainable, and what safeguards are needed to prevent others from facing the same fate. We share this narrative not to sensationalize his suffering, but to honor the lessons hidden within his journey. Aaron Carter was more than the scandals attached to his name. He was a boy who gave joy through his music and longed for understanding. His fall invites us to reflect on how we, as fans and as a society, treat those who once gave us moments of happiness.
Aaron Carter's story leaves behind a silence that feels heavier than the loudest applause he once received. For those who grew up with his music, the memory of a young boy singing carefree pop songs remains vivid, a reminder of a simpler time when joy felt effortless. His voice carried an innocence that could light up arenas, yet behind that innocence lay the struggles of someone forced to grow up too quickly. What remains today is not only the memory of his hits, but also the haunting lesson of how fragile stardom can be. Aaron's journey reminds us that fame is not a shield from pain, but often the very source of it. His early success will forever be part of pop culture history, and his downfall will forever be a warning whispered through the corridors of Hollywood. Some stories were never meant to be known, but now you know, and in knowing, you carry a piece of the truth that Aaron himself tried to share. His life was short, turbulent, and tragic, yet within it was a spark that touched millions. The legacy he leaves is not just about what was lost, but about what can still be learned. If his music once made you smile, let that memory live on. And if his struggles made you pause, let that awareness guide how we view the next generation of stars. Aaron Carter's light may have faded too soon, but the echo of his journey will not be forgotten. Like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories hidden behind the fame.